Alright, so I realized I didn't make a proper introduction of this bike, even though I didn't start working on it properly yet. I don't consider the project as started, but now it's time. So what is it? It's a KTM 250 GS 2-stroke from 1987, which did not run for, I think, the past 25 years. You will see the condition later on. The idea of the project, of course, is to put it back in riding conditions and to use it for rally racing at the next 2025 Italian Championship. So to do that, I have to properly prepare it. I'm quite short on time by now because it's mid-December at the moment, and the championship will start early March, and there's a lot to be done. And in addition to that, because it's a rally championship, the bike has to be road street legal. So last time it was approved was in 1997, so it will also need to go through the road checks, like the MOT, and that takes time, and it also takes all those kind of small adjustments like lights, speedometer, turn signals, and this kind of stuff that normally I wouldn't really worry about if it was just a off-road motocross track machine. But unfortunately I have to make it road legal as well. I said I didn't really consider the project started, but you can see the engine, well, it's missing and it's already on the bench behind there. And that's because, and that's the only thing I did. I think I did it a couple of months ago to take the engine off the bike, because I knew there were a couple of big topics to address that I would have to outsource, and therefore it would have taken long and I had to start as early as possible. So of course the cylinder was old and all scratched in the inside, so I had to bring it to a workshop to get it fixed. In the end, the scratches were so deep that they had to redo the whole chrome coating layer. So it's basically, well, brand new. As you can see, I just have to paint it. But that kind of job, of course, took time. I had to send it abroad, and that's why I wanted to do it as soon as possible. Let's have a look at the condition of the bike. Yeah, there's quite a lot of junk. Parts like these ones, rubber parts, are the most painful thing to find, and especially for KTM, it's not like Japanese bikes that it's quite easy to find new or second-hand parts. With KTM it will be a bigger challenge. I mean, there was even now you don't see it here, but there was a wasp nest in the headlight. I think there is still one over there. And so, as I said, I'm tight on time and money as well, because it gets expensive very quickly. So I'm gonna give priority to things that are necessary for the bike to run and participate in competitions. And then, depending on how the project goes, I will focus on aesthetic and less functional stuff. I'm not gonna try to make it, like a museum piece, but try to get it working and ready for a race, and then eventually see how much time and money is left. But going back to the engine, this is one of the side covers. I love that it is blue. Is it written here? Made in Austria, magnesium. So they made these side covers. This goes on the other side over here in magnesium, because it's lighter and fancier. But the problem is that over here there's the water pump that takes water from the cooling system and pump it in the cylinder. And a very known and typical problem of these specific bikes with magnesium carters is that the carter gets corroded by the water, and to the point that it makes a hole, and water goes into the engine and mixes with the oil. It's a mess. But finding these carters new, it's impossible. Secondhand, most of them are in the same bad conditions. In the meantime, what I'm going to do is to open the engine completely. I will replace all the O-rings, probably also most of the bearings too. I'm gonna start doing that now and then focus on, well, the rest. I actually wanted to wait with starting on the KTM project, but the Dominator cylinder didn't come back yet. So first step that I want to focus on is to get the engine out and put it on the bench. Carburetor is out. It's not too bad. Yeah, the main problem I can see so far is with all the plastic and rubber parts, because I think it has been, not used for so long. I don't even know how many years that, all the rubber parts are, how to say, yeah, they're broken. They really, as soon as I touch them, they go in 1,000 pieces. So, and usually they are quite a pain to find. Here it is, engine out. It was not too bad. Probably open the top, see how it is, and yeah, I'll go on from there. This is the bike now. It's a bicycle now. To remove the clutch side case, I first have to remove the exhaust valve control cover, then loosen up the hose clamps, and in the end take off the kickstarter and shifter. With a little leverage of a screwdriver, the case separates from the engine, which still contains a bit of gearbox oil. After that, I focus on removing the water pump, which is held in place by a sedger clip. With that out of the way, I can remove the oil seal and the two bearings. So, what I'm gonna do now is I want to take off the cylinder. So I have to remove the head here, then lose 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts, and then it should just lift up. By the way, it's so much easier to work on the engine like this, on the proper support, rather than having it on the table like the Dominator engine. So basically here it is. Here's the piston and the cylinder. As you can see, there are some scratches. It's not super smooth. Well, I have to say I'm fairly surprised with how easy this has been compared to the other bike. No screws got stuck or broken. It's the first time I work on a two-stroke, so it's all new for me, and I'm not a professional mechanic. So yeah, to say I'm quite happy. Next in line is the clutch. To remove that, I have to take off the bolts and springs that push the pressure plate on the clutch plate. I then have to straighten the safety washer so that, using the clutch holder tool, I can loosen up the nut and finally remove the clutch basket. Right, so I got most of the parts on the left side out. I just need to get this one off as well, but I need a different tool because these bits are too big and they don't fit in the two holes there. And I have to build some kind of extractor for this one, so the two screws will go in here, and then with another one at the center it will pull the gear out. So clearly this is to change. As you can see, the teeth are not straight anymore, but they are rounded off. So new one. Problem. I need the extractor to screw the extractor in and pull the how's it called, the flywheel out. I did buy it for the other bike, but even the biggest size, it's not big enough. Right, so I cannot continue further with splitting the case because I don't have the tool to remove the flywheel on the other side. So I'm gonna stop now. I have to buy the tool, and I'm gonna also start doing some research about the spare parts to buy, like the clutch discs, some of the gaskets, the O-rings, and whatever might be necessary. Overall, I have to say I'm quite surprised with the condition of the engine, as I had zero problems, no screws stuck. It's fairly clean. Everything is lubricated, no rust, no damage. So far so good. Depending on how much time it takes to get the tool, then I might focus on getting the suspension of the frame and checking those ones, or probably the carburetor first. Indeed, I start with the carburetor. You see me using a heat gun because it is full on winter and temperatures in the workshop are around 0 degrees, so I can really use a little bit of heat to warm up my hands and soften up the rubber parts. Anyway, the procedure to disassemble the carburetor is quite standard. Remove all the tiny screws, jets and filters, checking them one by one if they are clogged or broken. Right, so here's the carburetor, fully demounted. Overall, I have to say I'm quite surprised. It's not in bad condition. Of course, it needs some cleaning, as you can see, just normal cleaning. Here too, there's a little bit of dirt and quite easy to clean. But overall, I would say it's in good conditions. Then there are a couple of strange issues. So this is the main jet. Can't really see the size, but it's 175 written on it. The manual says it should be 188 even, don't remember. Or even 190 or 92, depending on the altitude and temperature. And this is 175, so it's way smaller. And also the idle jet, so this smaller one. By the way, the number indicates the size of the tiny hole in the screw. And well, depending how big it is, it will allow more or less mixture to go through. And this is a 50, and the manual says it should be a 58 or 55, again, depending on altitude and temperature. And this one looks broken here, the thread. So I'm gonna replace this one anyway, if I find it. And yeah, so now I'm gonna leave it like this. I will clean it later on. So what I will do now is to try to make a list of all the parts that I need to get the engine starting. So that's the main focus. So I can buy all those parts in one order, save on the shipping costs, So that's going to be a challenge, because I have to think about not only the carburetor or the engine, but I have to think about the cooling system. I have to think about all the rubber connecting bits. Ideally, I mean, the best would be to just make one order for everything, but yeah, that's not feasible, especially when I have to consider the suspensions, all the cables, wires for the clutch, for the brakes. I would have really to take the bike completely apart now and make a list, but I don't want to, spread over all the parts in the workshop. I prefer to focus first on the engine, get it back together, start it, and see if everything is all right. Once that chapter is kind of closed, then I move on to the frame and the suspension part and go on from there. So yes, now unfortunately I cannot continue with the engine until I get the tool, and that's why I will have to make an order with the tool and the parts and just get everything together and finish it up later. And yeah, so now it's computer time. It takes actually a lot of time to find all the parts, especially when the bike gets so old, find which part for which model year, for which engine type, because even the same bike would come with different carburetors depending on the country and the market. So this is a dell'Orto, it's an Italian carburetor. So I have to look parts specifically for this one, not just for the 1987 bike. And yeah, well done. I got the new parts delivered. It's a lot of bearings, air filter, new gaskets, new spark plug, and this is the tool that I needed to get the last part of the engine off. Let's go. Now I can use the new tool. What I will do is screw this one in, and then holding this one I screw this other one, which then will push the flywheel out. Okay. Now this is out. Good. Yeah. I took my time, but I wanted to be sure of not damaging anything because it was quite tight. Right, so now the only thing remaining are all these screws on the sides, as well as these ones in, and then, well, I have to remove the mount, and I should be able to split the case. Let's see if they are stuck or not. Okay, so here it is. These gaskets are crazy, they are thin paper. What I'm gonna do now is take the gearbox, well, the gears out, and this one can come out. Now okay. Ooh, these are very important. I have to take this one out. Good. And finally this one too. The gears look... oh, they look good. The fork also seems to be fine. I mean, I will look in detail later when mounting it back, but just at a quick look, at first glance, they look fine. Now, what I have to do are two things. Well, first of all, I'm gonna clean the outside of this thing properly. Then, still have to remove the main crankshaft. And when that is done, well, I will clean this one too. I have to replace most of the bearings. I mean, they don't seem to be bad, but considering that I have the engine apart already, I might as well do it. To do that, I have to heat up the case in the oven so that it expands and I can pull the bearings out, as well as the new ones. I will put them in the freezer so they cool down, they shrink, the case will expand because of the heat, and it should just, the new bearing should just, you know, drop in. Otherwise it will be basically impossible to put them in. So here's the situation now. I have all the engine parts lining up. And the engine, well, the case open. Cleaning and then start remounting it. Ready to bake. I'm gonna put gearbox oil